Hello everyone, my name is Luis Eduardo Martinez Andrade and I am a student at the University of El Salvador, and today we are going to be reviewing the short story Rain Music by Longen Nguyen. So without further ado, let's get on with the presentation. Life is full of choices. Will culture influence our decision? As we already know from experience, the way we are raised, our culture, our principles, and our values often influence on the decision making that we might one day have to make. Often not. It's usually their principles, our moral values, and our culture that usually perceives to influence to get a close judgment of how and we're going to perceive life and the way that these values are going to impact in our decision making. As we can see in the image, we have here a father and mother, daughters, and we can see that it's related to our relationship. And usually, parents are often more inclined to accept someone who is close related, who has things in common, than someone who is totally uh, different than, 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 than their family. So, in this story, we're going to get a good view of how our culture influence our decision making. So, today, we're going to get to see the characters first and foremost. And the characters of the stories are Lin, Nguyen, mother, father, David, and Thon. The setting of this story takes place in California, and the theme of this story is based on how role of culture in choices uh, regarding love is influenced. Usually, as I said before, the way we are raised and our heritage, our culture, usually more often will influence the decision making of things that at one time we're going to encounter and we have to make some type of decision. Rarely do people not pay attention to that, but when you are from let's say, a disciplined family where values and culture influence a lot, this will happen more often. So the development of the story, as I mentioned before, the setting of the story is in California, and the the characters, they are Vietnamese, uh, a Vietnamese heritage. They're Asian culture. So we can see at the beginning of the story how there's two siblings, right? We have siblings. We have Nguyen and we have Lin. They are siblings, and at childhood, like more often, usually you have differences and the issues, but at the end of the day, as siblings, you start to get along and have confidence and trust in each other, and you get along better as you grow. So the story starts with Lin and Nugent, right, growing up, and how Nugent portrays herself as being the thorn of the family, and she describes Lynn as being the rose of the family. So in a way, she's like the black sheep, and Lynn portrays the good daughter. The one's always, looked at as in a better way, maybe being more smart, the one that usually doesn't cause any problems to the family. On the other hand, we have Njen, who is considered more like, the problematic one. And as the story develops, we find out that Lynn, she's a student uh, at UCSF, University of California in San Francisco, and she's conducting her studies there. And as the story develops, we see how one day, Lynn and Nugent, they decide to go out on a picnic, and they discuss, uh, things related to their relationship. As Nugent already knows David, how he is, but she has never heard about Thane. Thane is another, because David and Thane, there are two people who are close in a kind of like an intimate, not intimate but romantic relationship with Lynn. David in the story is portrayed as an American writer, and Thane is portrayed as a classmate of Lynn at the university. So, in a discussion with her parents, they demonstrate how proud they are of Lynn, of her accomplishment, and how she's kind of close to graduating from the university. And they discuss about her love relationship, but their parents kind of like declined to speculate more, and they said that God will decide who or how things are going to happen. But as the story develops, we see how Anujen and Lin they decide to go on a picnic, and they start in a changing experience and talking about their relationships. And in the story, as we see, uh, Lynn starts talking about David, right? David, and how she she likes David, right? And she mentions to Nien that one day they went out on a date, and that David kissed her, and she liked it, and she enjoyed it, and that he wrote her a short book called Rain Music, and she explains to her that she likes David, that he's really interesting, and he likes him, right? But the only difference is that David doesn't understand her heritage, her culture, the way she is. So that's like one thing that keeps them apart. On the other hand, she tells her about Thane, the other person that she likes. And she explains how Thane understands her Vietnamese culture, and how he likes him. And at the end of the story, we understand, and he tells us that she would rather live her life with Thane, because Thane is more comprehending. She understands their culture because he is kind of similarities in the cultures and how he is. But we get to see also in the story, that in particularly in this story, how culture influenced the story, because she's more inclined to uh, be more start a relationship more with Thane because of their culture, because he understands her heritage. Where David, he doesn't understand, so that's what keeps them apart. So she decides for Thane because of the cultural purposes. So in the story, we see how, right, how culture really influence in this story, the personal relationship with someone. Usually, the girl was more inclined to start a relationship with Thane because he understood her heritage, her culture, her values, and they had things in common. And we can see that how in this story how culture will influence and impact decision making regarding love. As we already know, Asian people are really disciplined, and they tend to focus and pride their culture. So in the story, the morality of the story we got to see is how your culture will impact uh, your decision making. And even though she liked David, right, and he found them really interesting, she inclined more for to staying because of the things that they had in common. And often in life, it's like that, you know. Sometimes our decision making, whether it's in love, whether it's in anything that will impact our life, often culture will influence our decision. So we can see it from the story, right? That usually our parents, the way we are raised, will impact a lot the way we make our decision. And this is my personal reaction to the story. I hope you like it, and we'll be interacting with more videos soon. Thank you for your time.